Trevor Davis runs away with the show in Philadelphia, while Brett Hundley is a no-show. The defense looks to be off to a great start. So will the offense get a spark in D.C.? We preview the Redskins matchup next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey, Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys has been to the birthplace of Curly Lambeau, and the other guy, well, he has too. And now it's time to go, Pack, go, with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Welcome back to your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion, Green Bay Packers. Keep this phone number handy. The season is coming, and we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 920-3PACK-GO, which is 920-372-2546, which definitely doesn't have the same ring as 920-3PACK-GO. Of course, you can always visit PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback and be part of the show there. This is episode 133 of your Packers Fan Podcast. This is August 16th, 2017, and show notes will be conveniently found at PackersFanPodcast.com/133.
That phone number is so easy to remember. You can just see yourself sitting in the stands at Lambeau Field going, 3-pack go, 3-pack go.
That would be epic.
Maybe not. On this episode, we're going to discuss preseason. Can you believe it's almost half over already?
Woohoo!
And why it is super awesome and super good to be back in Green Bay. And we'll talk about those injuries. Were they as bad as they looked at first? Because some of them looked pretty horrific.
I can't wait to find out because I'm a little nervous about it. We're also going to preview this week's matchup against the Redskins. Troy will have his keys to the game for the Packers to be victorious yet again. And I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting part owner of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers.
And blazing my own trail to the end zone, I am at Troy Heinritz, your gold ticket package holding part owner of your Green Bay Packers. The Packers Fan Podcast is available on demand and on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps. They're on iOS and on Android, so we can play for both teams. But we all know that iOS might be slightly better in the Norris division, at least.
It's kind of like an AFC versus NFC kind of thing. Well, shall we dig right in with the highlights from the game?
Oh, man, and highlights there were. Where should we start this week? I don't know. I guess I'll talk about favorite plays of the game. How's that?
Let's do it that way.
I mean, my favorite play, Trevor Davis. We've been saying, Ron Zook, this poor guy, he has been wanting a punt return person for as long as he's been the coach. And just to hear about the process that Davis went through in the offseason about how he just kept returning kicks, whether it was in a parking lot or on the field or in a swamp. I don't know where he practiced, but wherever he practiced, it paid off because he had two great returns in this game against Philadelphia, especially the one for the touchdown. I think we found our punt returner finally. That's going to be fantastic. So count that as one of those 7 wide receiver spots taken. Boom.
Yeah, pretty much. And if he can keep up any sort of action like that as we go through the rest of the preseason and get ready for the opening day against the Seahawks, it's going to be fantastic. As far as another great play, does the fact that we get to see Lambeau leaps again, does that count as a play of the game? Because to me, that was beautiful.
Explain the Jeff Janis one, because the whole team looked like they were Lambeau leaping. He had Jeff Janis was in the Lambeau leap. You had Brett Hundley was Lambeau leaping, plus whoever did the block for Janis, he was up there on the wall too. I mean, I never seen a triple leap before.
9 Packers leaping. The holidays are coming. From what I understand, there's a slight change in the rule on how end zone celebrations can happen. And I don't know the ins and outs of it just yet, but it sounds kind of like maybe more people can participate, but they got to get it over in a hurry.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well. And maybe it's a rule that's only enacted during the preseason to see how it goes. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I mean, I've heard of triple Lindy's, but triple leapings, that's a different story.
Only in Green Bay can it really work.
This is true. This is very true. Now, here's the thing. I was super excited about that second quarter. That second quarter was a fun quarter to watch because, man, 3 turnovers for our defense, 10 points off of those turnovers. I mean, that is where we need to see this Packers team. That reminded me of the Packers team of 2011 when we went 15-1 during that season, unfortunately losing to the Giants at a game that I was at. Not that I'm bitter or anything.
Oh.
But I think if we can see a defense play like that all season with our offensive weapons, I think we run the table.
Now, do you think it's because the fact that there's been so much dogging of the defense over the past year or two that they wanted to come out and make a point? Or is it just a new scheme and a new attitude and a little bit of new blood? Because to me, they really seemed like they were on fire and wanted to be fast and wanted to prove something.
You could say they were better, stronger, faster. We're going to play the $6 million man all season.
I still can't believe that happened.
But the best part about it was Joe Thomas. Mike check. Yes, he's in the middle there in the field. Yes, we had a guy covering the middle of the field, and guess what? He intercepted the ball.
It's funny how that can happen sometimes.
Oh, that was so exciting to see Joe get his mitts up there, and I think it was just really fun all around just to see the energy, the excitement of how Lambeau Field was going, especially it's a packed crowd. I mean, I know you watch the Rams contest there, and if they're still playing the LA Coliseum, right? Because this new stadium is not going to be ready now on time or something of that nature.
Yeah,
from what I understood.
Yeah, the new stadium for the Rams and Chargers was going to be 2 years away, but because of all of the rain, and we did get a fair amount of rain, but I don't think it's enough to warrant it being another year behind. So, yeah, just watching a bit of the Rams preseason opener on TV, the stadium was only about 70% full, and I don't know who the guy was on the pre-roll video thing, but he actually touted that the LA Coliseum, wait for it, the greatest stadium in the history of America.
I feel like you need to add an echo effect on that, right?
The greatest stadium in the history of America. I mean, sure, the Coliseum does have some history, but that place has almost no seats with a decent view, and it's all run down. I guess they got to try to pump things up when they can, but I have no doubt that Lambeau Field is definitely the best of all the NFL stadiums.
I was at the Science Center next door to that, seeing the space shuttle. It's not an easy place to get to. It's not an easy on-off freeway. There's like no parking. So who wants to go to a game there in the first place?
I'll find out next year when the Packers come to town. Oh, yeah.
I will too, because I'll be there.
Come on down, Troy. We'll make it happen.
Now, we did have that early fumble by Ty talking about our lowlights of the game. I mean, I don't know if that puts a damper or anything, or if that's like his one for the season and we're shake it off and move forward. But that really did kill the momentum up front. And then you have these first quarter penalty mistakes. I mean, the fourth down, false start, backing them up 5 yards, so we couldn't convert there. After that great sack by Nick Perry right before it. I mean, mental mistakes. McCarthy talks about those all the time. You cannot commit those mental mistakes, especially when you're in these preseason games. This is where you get your cadence down, your structure down, so that you're ready for preseason or for regular season action.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised. I know that it's preseason and everybody's kind of getting into the groove. And so that was unfortunate because Ty Montgomery is one of the last people that I thought would make a fumble. But the fact that there wasn't very much run game at all did cause me a little bit of concern.
Well, now the question is was that in the game plan or is that Mike McCarthy again? Because the minute Ty fumbles the ball, I want to say there was all of... it was a low number, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. 28 yards rushing for the team leaders. And the team leader was a quarterback again. So, I mean, it's a little sad when you think about Williams. You know, granted, he's the up-and-coming rookie, so he would be the quote-unquote leading running back since he had the most play time with 4 attempts, 14 yards for him. But Hill and Callahan make up 25 yards. And then it's Williams with 14. The rest of the team had 8 yards. So, yeah, we might be 1-0, but my run game right now looks a little weak.
All we can do is hope that it's just a preseason anomaly that's going to get sorted out, and maybe it'll be totally turned around by this Saturday night, but we'll get to that when we get there.
Now, 4 attempts for Williams on 14 yards. That is a little over 3 yards a carry. So that's right about the ballpark where you want them to be. I'd like to see more of the 5-yard variety like Ty Montgomery had last year. But so Williams, I think, is a for sure keeper at this point. We'll see how he does in his second week.
And it'll be here before you know it. Can't wait. Can't wait, because the next thing you know, preseason will be half over, and then we'll really be looking towards the regular season opener. Any other down points in this preseason matchup against the Eagles, Troy?
I mean, you gotta wonder what happened with Hundley. I know there was a lot of talk about his camp not being the best camp up to this point, and then he literally has just over 50% completion, gets the touchdown, gets the interception. He just did not look like he was ready to play football in this game. Joe Callahan came out, and I was really excited to see Joe because he was a fun guy to watch last year. And the fact that Joe came out firing, 10 of 16, 103 yards, didn't get a tutty, but he had this amazing like spin away move to break up a sack, and then ended up finding McCaffrey downfield for a 34-yard gain. And remember that name McCaffrey, we brought him up last week as one of the rising stars. Mm-hmm. So he ended up coming away with 3 catches for 60 yards. So that's not bad. 20 yards a catch.
No.
I think he might be one of those 7-2.
And although Hundley didn't look fantastic, he did seem pretty poised out there for the most part. I thought he had the confidence. He's just trying to shake off the rust and the fact that he only gets to play really in preseason at this point. So
all the more reason why, if this is the only time you get to play, this is a time where you need to make sure that you're doing everything you can to be the absolute best you can be. And he just, to me, he looked like he was not necessarily nervous in the pocket, but it seemed like he had a little bit of the quick release jitter. Like he wasn't waiting for the plays to develop, especially if you're watching from behind. It seemed like he was rushing his throws a little bit, where Callahan just was running for his life, but that's a different story. But he still makes things happen. I like Joe. He's an interesting guy, to be quite honest.
Let's keep them all. Well,
you never know when Rodgers breaks a collarbone and the next person goes down and the next person goes down. Happened before. It'll happen again sometime.
I must say that was one of the craziest months or so to be a Packers fan, because you really had no idea who was going to be playing quarterback one week to the next. Oh, when did we get that guy? I thought he retired. Oh my. Well, things are.
And we still win the division and we still make the playoffs.
Go Pack, go Troy.
Go Pack, go D.
Now, to lead into one of the other downer portions from the game, why don't we fire it off with a brief voicemail from listener Caleb, because he wants to kind of introduce it for us.
Hey, this is Caleb Fisher from O'Connell Falls, Wisconsin. Wanted to get your intake on what you thought about all the injuries that we sustained during the Philadelphia Eagles game, and bleed green and gold till we're dead and cold. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed. Thank you so much for calling in, Caleb. And that was, for me, the saddest part of the preseason game. I know injuries are part of the game, but wow, we sure seem to have a lot of injuries. And, of course, green and gold till dead and cold. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, the Trey Sullivan hit on Malachi Dupree, that was a nasty, nasty hit. I mean, he totally led with his helmet. I haven't had a chance to read up on the news to see if he got a fine or not for that hit. But it's like, dude, it's preseason. I mean, play hard, but play smart. So the fact that happened, I mean, Malachi is the up-and-coming draft pick. And the minute he went down, I was like, oh, man, that sucks. But apparently he is a young up-and-comer. And when you're young, you heal much quicker, because he was up and moving around the next day and no concussions and basically back up on the field, ready to go. So good things all around there for Malachi. But then you have the concussion protocol situation for Mr. Demarius Randall. Now, he had kind of a lackluster camp, as we mentioned last week. And so now him getting knocked out, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up coming in on the roster when all is said and done. I mean, that was a pretty big hit, too. A lot of big hits in this game that it just makes you go, why are you guys playing that hard in preseason? You think that everybody would have like a code of some kind.
You would think there'd be a code of some kind, because I know Coach McCarthy was not happy at all. Either was I.
Yeah, and I mean, you could tell that we were playing by the code, because we came up and two-hand touched people to knock them down, because we still have a problem wrapping people up and tackling them to the ground on a regular basis. So clearly we thought it was two-hand touch rules for most of that game, at least in the first quarter for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if the Eagles were trying to prove that they were as talented as that Packers team with Brett
1996
Favre.
team, yeah,
or what, but not happy at all. And then to add to all the injuries, our rookie safety Josh Jones was carted off practice today with his lower leg wrapped in ice.
Oh, that could be a cramp. That could be a muscle tear. Yeah, it might dampen up the preseason a little bit, but I think he'll be fine.
It seems like, especially in your area of the country where everything is so hot and muggy and humid, they seem to get these cramps a lot more than in other areas. Or is that just something that seems to take place because I'm always watching the Green Bay Packers?
No, it's called drink water, drink more water, and then when you think you're done drinking water, drink more water. So especially on these hot, humid days. I mean, it's been pretty muggy here the last 2 days. Maybe it's the effect of the moon coming into alignment or something. I have no idea. But it's going to be pretty muggy for another week or two. So you just got to be out there and condition your body and be ready to go. And unfortunately, things happen, and you just got to take care of it, ice it, get back out there. The other big one was a kind of a shocker was Don Barkley. I mean, when you talk about centers, they're in short supply. So to have your backup center go down as your signal caller, you're going to, well, who's the number 2 guy now when you think about what's happening on the line? So hopefully Barkley gets himself back and squared away, and he could be back out there because he's the versatile guy. He's played every position on the line, so you want to make sure he's in there if he needs to fill in a hole somewhere.
Absolutely, if it's anything like years past. So hopefully, his status right now is uncertain, so we'll have to just kind of take it day by day. Same for Ty Montgomery. He got sidelined with some sort of leg issue that I don't really have all the facts behind what happened, but he is listed as day-to-day, so maybe by Saturday night he'll be fine, or at least the third preseason game, I'm hoping.
Yeah, but in other news, it's good to be back. Did you know that Mr. Good returned to the Green Bay Packers?
I am so thankful, and I think that Mason Crosby is going to be thankful as well.
I'm just excited that we actually have, 2 of the, team back together for special teams. We're worried about Mason Crosby there during the family night scrimmage, missing all those field goals, and they're trying to get their timing down. So clearly this was Ted saying, you know what, let's bring Brett back in here and make sure that we can have a consistent process for that team so that we can have field goals win games. And there was a lot of close ones last year. So we want to make sure every 3 points counts.
Yeah, because Mason, he is money, but he can't kick a lot of field goals if the rest of the team is mishandling the ball and doing other crazy shenanigans. So welcome back, Mr. Good. We are quite happy to have you back on the team. Now, something else that transpired since our last episode of the podcast is thanks to you, Packers fan listeners. You did it. Thank you so much. The Packers Fan Podcast is now a finalist in the sports category at this year's annual People's Choice Podcast Awards. And we want to thank you for that because what happens next, Troy? People have been asking because it's so different than years past for the Podcast Awards.
Yeah, this year they changed up the rules so that you only had to submit a single nomination ballot from as many email addresses as you wanted to use. And that allowed us to get enough nominations to be a finalist. So thank you very much for that effort. Now what happens is that it's going into a panel of over 250 podcast listeners, 50 podcasters, and then members of the Podcast Awards Committee to do the voting that way this year rather than having us vote every single day, which kind of a little bit of a burdensome thing. So awesome change there for the award ceremony. But the bigger news is that we're actually going to do the Podcast Awards ceremony as part of the International Podcast Day. Yes, that is a thing. September 30th of 2017 this year will be International Podcast Day. You can check it out at internationalpodcastday.com. And that is literally a day to celebrate podcasting in general. You get a whole 30-hour stretch of live stream that's going to be taking place. And on the September 30th at about, I think it's around 7 Central or so in the evening, might be 7 Pacific. I'm not sure of the time zone. But around that hour, it's going to be the award ceremony, which will be broadcast live. So you'll get to see for yourselves if you helped us become a winner.
I want to thank you yet again for helping get us nominated. We are a finalist for the second year in a row. We're very thankful and honored. And the best part about International Podcast Day this year, September 30th, is on a Saturday. So many more people will be available to listen to the live streams all day and watch the Podcast Awards ceremony on Saturday night. So good times. It should be a national holiday. They should make that a 3-day weekend. What say you?
I agree 110%. And the best part about this year's awards, especially in the sports category, is that much like the Green Bay Packers facing off against the Seahawks to open the season, we too will be facing off against the Seahawkers podcast. So challenge has been issued. We will hopefully beat you guys, because if we both lose, we won't know who beat who. But we'll have to have a conversation either way.
Yeah, because in the sports category, if you go take a look, the Packers Fan Podcast and the Seahawkers Podcast are the only two NFL podcasts that are devoted to a single team, a fan podcast. So there's other sports in there as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. As they say, it's an honor to be nominated. It truly is, to see your name listed with all these other podcasts. Not to mention the fact, before we get back to the Packers and this coming Saturday's game, Troy, you've got a few other podcasts that made it to the finals.
Yeah, super honored to have The Blacklist Exposed. That is a fan podcast dedicated to the NBC television show The Blacklist from Sony Pictures Television. And then we did a new one this year for Westworld on HBO called Beyond Westworld. That's at beyondwestworldpodcast.com. Definitely check those two out. And then Wayne is literally the voice of a podcast called Remake This Movie Right, where we actually take a movie that's already happened and try to remake it in the way that we think Hollywood should do it better. That could be because maybe you didn't like the new Ghostbusters version, or you really don't want them to remake War Games or Gremlins or etc. So Wayne provides his voice talents for all of our movie trailers on that particular podcast, and I guest host from time to time, coming up with crazy ideas known as the Full Heinrichs. So awesome that we got those three podcasts nominated as well.
Yes, good times. Well, Saturday night is almost upon us. Preseason game number 2, Packers at Redskins. Shall we go with the keys to victory right off the bat, Troy?
Why not? Let's go ahead and jump right in with number 1. The Redskins had a number of key players nursing injuries. For example, top wide receivers Josh Doxton and Jamison Crowder, and pass rushers Preston Smith and Junior Gillette, and safety Swall Cravens rank among those sidelined from the Redskins. Now, this doesn't mean we will win convincingly, but it does mean that when the corners are up in against the second stringers, this is the time that we should not be shown up by the backup team. So if our cornerbacks can have a really great time in this game, I think that'll give them some confidence. Same on the offensive line. Second string pass rushers better not be beating the first team offensive line. So this is going to be a true test. If we can hold off the second stringers, we know we're in good shape. If the second stringers start beating up on us a little bit, don't want to see that happen. Number 2, now without Cravens, Washington likely will turn to third-year pro Deshaun Everett at strong safety. Now, in his second season as a safety after signing with the Redskins as an undrafted cornerback out of Texas A&M, Everett did find himself in a great position to show what he can do beyond special teams, where he has been primarily contributed in the past 2 years. Now, this is a perfect opportunity for Brett or Joe to really see what the receivers can do and let that ball air out against that third-year pro. I mean, if we can really see some large, long pass plays in this game, I think that is a key to a victory for sure, because that'll literally take the wind out of your sails. I mean, just ask the 2016 Packers how they felt against the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, boy, I'm not going to ask him anything about that.
Number 3, first-round pick Jonathan Allen continues to acclimate himself to the game and compete for a starting job at defensive end. So with Gillette and Smith hobbled, second-round pick Ryan Anderson will get a chance to prove himself capable of a larger role at outside linebacker. So this is a perfect opportunity for the Packers' rookie running backs to get some reps in and see what they're made of. Again, when you think about it, a victory against anything builds confidence. So to take the wins when you can get them, even if it's a first-year player or second-string players you're going up against, victory means I have confidence. Confidence means I grow. And therefore, those rookie running backs will be our saving grace if we run the ball. Number 4, Kirk Cousins and his backups are playing with a depleted arsenal across the board. What a perfect time for Tom Capers to send the blitz packages flying from all sides of the line. Let's go ahead and get the linebackers and maybe even the secondary warmed up against Cousins and get some revenge for last year for that Washington game.
That would be very nice indeed. And then we can ask Kirk You like that?
How you like them apples? Number 5, finally, inside linebacker jobs remain up for grabs in Washington. It seems that Will Compton remains the favorite at the Mike position, but will it be Zach Brown or Mason Foster alongside him? Washington still has questions along the defensive line, where Allen and free agent addition Phil Taylor and rising second-year player Matt Iondis and Anthony Lanier have all looked pretty good so far in this camp. But none of those players have locked up jobs. So I think this is a great test for our fullback or tight end arsenal, and maybe even Ty Montgomery coming out of the backfield on the dump pass over the line. I think we're going to see some interesting matchups here on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe start to work in a little bit more of the playbook. What do you think, Wayne?
I am all ready for some of that to get mixed in, and especially the tight end arsenals, because we've got some big tight ends out there.
I'd love to see some crossing routes, some crossing patterns. And if the crossing tight end route happens with the fullback coming through, and then you can dump it off to Ty behind the lead blocker, and you can have some really interesting stuff or set up some pretty good-sized screens. I'm excited. It's getting awesome.
And with this just being the second preseason game, this is the perfect time to try out some of that stuff in a real game situation and just see how it plays out. And like you said, build confidence, because at the end, confidence will help us hoist that Lombardi trophy yet again.
Because remember, next week, not this week, but next week is the big game 3, where you get kind of see it all kind of come together. So really, this is the time to try out some stuff, test some stuff, really push the limits, and then see what you can put together for a real game plan next week, which should be our kind of preview of the regular season.
Right. It's traditionally game 3 where we might see the starters for up to the entire first half if we're lucky.
Maybe not Rodgers.
Well, yeah, that's true. We got to protect the guy. But
definitely not Jordy Nelson.
Okay. For most teams, you'll get to see the starters for the first half. Good times. Well, the official Green Bay Packers dope sheet is out, and we are going to link to it at PackersFanPodcast.com/133. Looking at the Packers at Redskins matchup, it starts off. The Packers travel to play the Redskins in the second game of the preseason, Saturday, August 19th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FedEx Field in Maryland, which always confuses me because I'm such a West Coast guy that I'm trying to picture Washington. I know they're not in Washington State. I'm not that lost, but Maryland. Okay, they're practically neighbors with the Ravens. FedEx Field.
Yeah, they're not in D.C. They're just outside of D.C. a little bit.
Yeah, kind of cheating. Kind of like how the Dallas Cowboys aren't even really in Dallas.
Could you imagine if it was the Ashwaubenon Packers?
It would be misspelled so often.
It would be mispronounced so often by Troy Buck and the guys. Ashwaubenon, what?
That's why they're the Green Bay Packers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This will be the 26th time that the Green Bay has played at Washington during the preseason, but it's the first preseason meeting between the two clubs since 1995 when the teams played at Lambeau Field. And Green Bay has played Washington each of the past 2 regular seasons. The two met in that fabulous 2015 wildcard playoff where we did win 35-18. And like you alluded to earlier, Troy, week 11 of last season where the Redskins somehow scored 42 lost number points against our 24. And with a win over the Philadelphia Eagles last week, the Packers won their preseason opener for the 3rd consecutive year. It's not the biggest three-peat that we get to brag about, but
hey, it's a three-peat nonetheless.
There it is. So before we get to some little tidbits that jumped out, why don't you break down the roster for us, Troy?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's about a 89 to 90-man roster, depending on how things are fluctuating. We brought in a guy and released a guy almost the same day. But it's composed of 44 offensive players, 41 defensive players, and 4 specialists. And of the players on the Green Bay Packers roster, 41 of them, or 45.6%, were actually draft picks of the Packers themselves, dating back to 2007. Green Bay has at least one member of each draft class still on the roster today.
Amazing.
So I think that's pretty freaking cool that we literally build from within, right? In Ted we trust, and things have been pretty good, I think, throughout the McCarthy area for the most part. Now, Green Bay does have 43 players on the roster that began their careers as undrafted free agents, with 36 of those originally signed by Green Bay. So again, we're not picking A-list number 1 top tier players. We're finding the diamonds in the rough and making them into even better diamonds.
Exactly why we did not try to draft somebody along the lines of Johnny Manziel.
You're exactly correct.
I'm actually kind of surprised how high the number is of the undrafted free agents.
Yeah, we are a draft or pick up the scraps and develop team. And I think we develop very well over the years. We make sure the people that want to stick around, stick around. The ones that want to move on, move on. And I think overall it suited us well. I mean, come on. What are we at now? 5 out of 6 division championships? Not many teams can say that except for the Patriots.
Yeah, that's true. For the NFC, we are that stalwart team, almost always in the playoffs, almost always winning our division of late. And I see no reason why this trend is going to change anytime soon. So it is a good time to be a Green Bay Packers fan. Now, the notable connections from the dope sheet, of course, the big one that really jumps out, Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy. That's right. He did play 8 seasons with the Redskins from 1977 to 1984, and he even served as co-captain from 1980 through 1984 and played on the Super Bowl championship team the Redskins had with him. And he even earned All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors back in 1983. So congratulations again to Mark Murphy. And then he comes to the Green Bay Packers and shares all that wisdom with the rest of the team. This is fabulous stuff. And you can read the entire dope sheet linked at PackersFanPodcast.com/133.
Yeah, and again, if you want to catch the game, you could always follow it on the Packers TV network. Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon commenting as usual, all the way there on NBC 26 in Green Bay, NBC 4 in Milwaukee, 27 Madison, ABC 9 Wausau, ABC 18 Eau Claire, ABC 19 in La Crosse. And, of course, you can get it online streaming with your NFL Game Pass. Make sure you get that if you want to watch it live. You can do it on your Apple TV through the NFL app or on your phones. And if you don't get a chance to catch it live on Saturday night, you can always watch the replay on the Game Pass or on NFL Network. So make sure you check it out. It's going to be fantastic.
That's right. On the NFL Network, I believe they are replaying it Sunday morning at 4 a.m. Pacific time, 7 a.m. Eastern, I believe. That's a wacky time to try to watch NFL football.
Yeah, I don't know if my body can adjust to that.
Well, we're all trying to get into the groove. This is preseason podcasting, preseason games, preseason everything. It's just one of the other things that once the regular season gets here, it's not only do the games matter, but, they're at standard times and almost everybody gets to see them live.
Yeah, unless you're in London, like Colm and those guys over there across the puddle.
I think
they're watching Packers way early in the morning.
They are diehards. Brett and Colm and some of the others, they probably see more Packers games live than some of the fans here in the States. That's commitment.
Commitment indeed. So, should we get into picking our scores for this weekend?
Let's go ahead and do that. I think we kind of went around about the middle for the Eagles game because I picked way high, Packers winning 38-11, and you picked pretty low, 21-17, and final score was somewhere in the middle, I think.
Yeah, it was somewhere around 26-9, was it? Memory serves? 24-9, 24-9.
It was preseason, so I pretty much erased the quote-unquote score.
I gave Doug Peterson's Eagles a little bit more credit than they deserved, apparently. Or our defense is just that much more improved.
It might be both.
Who knows? But I think I was the closest since I had 21 to Packers 24, so I'll go first.
We'll give it to you.
This week, I'm going to say Packers 30, Redskins 20. It's a win.
Of course it's a win. That's a pretty big win. 10 points.
10 points. I think Hundley will calm down a little bit, and he'll get at least 2 touchdowns. Callahan will pick up 2. Davis will pick up 1 on a punt return. That's, 14-28. That's almost 35 right there.
It's going to be fun if we can see that many points. I'm going to also pick a Packers victory in this preseason game, even though we're on the road. But I do think it's going to be very, very close. It's preseason. We're all working out the kinks. Packers are going to win 22 to Redskins 19.
Now, most people would pick 23-20. How do you get 22 and 19?
Well, because things are usually not that cut and dried, especially in preseason. I think there's going to be a missed field goal here. The Packers may do something wacky like go for a 2-point conversion just because we want to tested out. And so I just think strange things are going to happen. It's not just going to be touchdown, extra point, field goal, whatever.
Somebody returned an extra point for an extra point.
That's true. And somebody might even be so confused because it's preseason. They might start scoring it in the Canadian Football League model and miss a field goal, get a point. Who knows?
As long as they don't score it in the Australian Football League model, it's like, was that a 6 or a 1? And how many tries? And oh my gosh.
So the Packers win by at least 3.
At least 3. I think that's a fair score. I think we got it. We're going to get revenge for last year. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And even though preseason revenge isn't true revenge, it'll still be nice. Much better than coming out of Washington, going home with less points than the Redskins. So, and especially with all the things you mentioned in the keys to the game, we definitely should win this game, even on the road.
I agree.
No worries at all. And we want to remind you and thank everybody for their support of the Packers Fan Podcast at Patreon. Thanks going out to the Texas Only Packers Fans Facebook group. They are supporting at the Brett Favre level. They never give up. So thank you to the Texas Only Packers fans and AJ at the Curly Lambeau appreciation level. Very well done. It really helps out the podcast. Thanks again.
That's PackersFanPodcast.com/support. And you could go ahead and pass your dollars over that way as well. Who knows? Maybe we'll even do some post-game shows this year if there's enough support for it. So PackersFanPodcast.com/support to join the Texas Only Packers fans. You don't want them to be the only state represented in the union. So come on, Massachusetts. Come on, Washington. Come on, Wyoming. I know you can do it. Now, you can help make that podcast better by doing that, but you can also use our Amazon affiliate link. So if you are getting ready for the season and you are out there just waiting to go to make sure that you have the nicest man cave possible, or woman cave, depending on who you are, and you got to get all your swag and you got to put up all your decorations and decorate it out in all the green and gold colors, you can do all that shopping through our Amazon affiliate link. Just go to PackersFanPodcast.com. It's on every webpage over there in the right-hand column. We even picked out a couple things that we thought you might like. So definitely check that out and support the podcast.
And even Amazon picks out a couple things based on what's popular. And apparently, I don't know if it's because it's back to school time, but a Packers fidget spinner was featured the other day. So you just click on any item and then just buy whatever you want.
And it worked because I bought 2.
Did you really?
I did. I bought one for my daughter and I bought one for me.
That's
And I can tell you, it is the smoothest spinner I've bought over the last year.
I might have to invest then after all.
And if you actually put it, I put it on my dresser and I gave it a good spin and we timed it. It was almost 2.5 minutes of spin time before it stopped.
That's impressive.
I thought impressive.
So. I think I need to try to top that. My competitive nature. So I'm going to go for 3 minutes. Maybe oil it up, WD-40, something like that. We'll see.
The over-under is set at 245. Remember, gambling is for entertainment purposes only.
That's right. Even in Vegas, I'm sure somebody's taking a line on these kinds of things.
What? That's not a roulette machine? Oh, okay. Well, we want to remind you that this is an unofficial Packers fan podcast. It's not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, if you would like to talk to us about syndicating the show, contact us at media@PackersFanPodcast.com. And again, don't forget to become one of the Packers Fan Podcast faithful, the MVPs, PackersFanPodcast.com/support to see how you can help make the podcast even better.
And remember to listen to us on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps for iOS and Android. It's the easiest way to listen to the show when you're in your car or just out and about and you want to plug in some earbuds. Listen to the Packers Fan Podcast on Android or iOS. And did I mention they are free? And all season long, follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. Once the regular season gets here, the Monday Twitter polls will be fired up yet again. You can even follow me on my personal account at Wayne Henderson.
You might even see a Twitter poll this Monday just because we got to practice too for preseason. So keep your eye again at Packers Fan Pod at Twitter. And you can follow me. I am at Troy Heinrichs. That's Heinz Ketchup, Ritz Crackers, no Z in the middle. You can share your favorite Packers recipe or game day stuff over on our Facebook group. Just go to PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook to join our community. Share your favorite chili recipe, your favorite grilling recipe, your favorite dipping sauces. We'd love to see what you have. Go ahead and post your pictures up there. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook.
And there's also PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get your thoughts in. Let your voice be heard and be part of the next episode of the show. Keep the conversations going online. We'll have another episode of the Packers Fan Podcast very soon. And if things all come together, we're going to have a very interesting and special episode recorded live in Anaheim at the Podcast Movement Conference. Stay tuned.
Not because we're switching to be Rams fans or anything, but
no.
Yes, we will be there, hopefully with our award in hand for accepting. So that'll be great because I'm nominated for an award at that particular event. So it'll be interesting to talk to all of you next week as we prepare for another great matchup. So be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts. Leave a review if you're enjoying the show. We'd love to hear from you. But more importantly, let's show Kirk Cousins what Packers football is all about. Let's get revenge for last year, and let's get everybody fired up. It's preseason, game 2, baby. Let's hear you. Go, Pack, go!